I've clicked onto the global tropical overview for May the 21st, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, the thought expressure are mine alone, and in making any decisions ahead of any tropical cyclone, look to the local office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So, quick morning update on Tropical Cyclone Ialy. I hope I'm saying that name correctly here in the southwestern Indian Ocean. The system has really been not doing all too much in terms of land impacts over the past few days. The system formed north of Madagascar a few days ago and has been slowly tracking west. And now the system could be a potential threat now to portions of Kenya and Tanzania. The original expectation was that the system was going to track west and then slowly turn towards the north as it weakened and then get up towards the equator and weaken away. And that would be the end of it. But the system has managed to fend off the wind shear that it's facing a little bit better, possibly because we have some pretty strong outflow aloft, and I'll show you that in a moment on water vapor. But you can see where it is right now, where the original expectation was like this. The system has more done a track like this, and now it's centered here on the satellite loop, and this is the coastline of Kenya, and this is the coastline of Tanzania. The system's getting fairly close, and you can see the thunderstorms are also getting fairly close there. And while we're not expecting major impacts, the system is likely going to weaken before it does come ashore, if it does come ashore at all. We could still get heavy rainfall here, and that could easily cause some flooding issues along the portions of the coastline and even areas further inland here, mainly in Kenya, but also in portions of Tanzania here. You can see we have this band of thunderstorms here wrapping in, and this could go right into the coastline and further inland into Tanzania and could cause some flooding issues. Looking aloft, you can see one reason why the system may be fending off the shear a little bit better than models anticipated. We do have an upper high off towards the southwest. Now, this is imparting a little bit of shear over the system right now, but you can also see it helping with outflow. We've got a lot of upper level cirrus clouds streaming away from the system towards the southeast over Madagascar, and we also have a pretty strong outflow channel over Africa, and these stronger outflow channels can sort of work to negate some of the impacts of wind shear, and I think that's what may have happened here. And now the system will likely weaken still somewhat. It has been gradually weakening, I believe. It was a cyclone at some point, or at least close to it, and I think it may be gradually weakening, and you would expect that given the amount of dry air that we have here. Yeah, with all the shear from this ridge, you would imagine that some of this dry air is trying to get punched in by the flow from that upper level high. And maybe you could see an entrance route right here within that convection, this little divot here, and maybe that can cause that further weakening. Now, when the system does weaken, it's going to be turning course. It's not going to be moving west anymore. It's going to be turning towards the north. Reason being, we have a westerly wind burst going on across the equator further towards the east. And this is basically having the low-level winds go like this, and they're turning into that westerly wind burst. So you're going to have the storm, once it weakens, turn towards the north, and then its remnants will probably move towards the northeast once it enters the northern hemisphere. But if it does stay fairly strong, especially like it is now, it could easily get fairly close to the coastline of Kenya before making that northward turn, and that's where the concern will come or rainfall. And if it does stay intact, I suppose it's possible you get some increased winds, but I feel like those will decay quicker before it actually makes a close pass or potential landfall. And I don't know if we're going to see a landfall here, but landfall's not important. The impacts are, and the rainfall could easily be significant with this system. You can see what's steering it right now towards the west. Aloft, we have this big upper high over portions of southern Africa and southern Madagascar. And this is just driving the system off towards the northwest, or the west-northwest rather. But you can see what I meant with the winds from the westerly wind burst further east, how the easterly trade winds just turn into the westerly winds north of the equator. And that's why the system's going to turn north once it does eventually weaken. But of course, the key is, when does that happen? And we'll just have to really watch in real time here when the shear actually starts to take a big toll. Maybe we're starting to see that with this drier slot of air. You can see this darker area in the colors on this water vapor loop. Maybe this is some of the dry air, because we have very dry air out here trying to punch in, and maybe that will be the final blow for the system. Is one, especially with this very dry year. Once you get that in there, it can really disrupt the storm quite significantly. Here's the current forecast from Meteo France. Now, their forecast seems to be having some issues. The actual cone is not showing. But you can see their general expectations showing what I said, having the storm turn north at some point before making landfall in Africa. Now, exactly where is this? Not too sure. I'd say if there was a cone, it would probably be something like this, to where you could have on the western solution a storm that gets pretty close. And again, that could cause significant rainfall in Kenya and Tanzania, and that could easily lead to flooding issues. So if you're in an area ahead of the storm, make sure you're taking necessary precautions and staying tuned to local emergency management so you know what's happening with the system. But again, just that quick update on Ialy. I don't have anything else to talk about tonight. We'll talk about the rest of the tropics at a later time. That's all for now. Stay safe in Kenya and Tanzania, and that's all for now, and thanks for watching.